the Ojai Basin Groundwater Management Agency on January 6, 2022 at 3:01. Want to call the roll, please?
Director Daddy?
Here.
Director Finch?
Here.
Director Wyrick?
Here.
Director Thielke?
Here.
And Chair Hages.
Here.
Thank you.
Do the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the next item is public comments on any items that are not on today's agenda. Are there any comments from the public that's here? No? Anyone online that has comments on items not on the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move to item number 4, approval of groundwater sustainability plan. John?
Sorry. Trying to get all, we got a whole bunch of technical difficulties going on. Tonight, what we've got is the groundwater sustainability plan for your approval in front of you. There were comments that were provided by several different groups, and DUDEC has provided responses to those. I think Trey is going to go over those tonight, yes. And I know Jordan Keir has some comments and wants to make sure that those items get put into the plan. It's because they supposedly deal with the upper and the lower aquifers, or the purge zone in the lower aquifer, making sure that's clear because of the ongoing litigation. So with that, Trey, you ready?
Just a point of order. I assume after those 2 rounds, there'll be opportunity for board comments
Yes.
in the draft? Okay.
Trey, this is Bob. Did you get any more comments past those that we saw the last meeting? Is there anything that leaked in after our meeting that we haven't seen?
Council Chambers, Bob, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Terrific. Yes, we did get one comment letter, and I'll present that today, but basically that comment letter was 2 comment letters, one we had already received and one that was submitted by NOAA to the Upper Ventura Groundwater Basin. So I'll go over that in our presentation.
Thank you.
Of course.
Was submitted to the upper?
Exactly. I'll explain it during the
Okay.
presentation,
All right.
but somebody simply attached a comment letter for another basin.
Okay.
And it's really an informational item.
Okay.
With that, if you're ready, we'll start to go over the response to comments on the public draft GSP. There was a public draft comment period that ran from October to the last board meeting, December 9th, for the public draft Ojai Valley Groundwater Basin. Just for anyone new that might be in the room or online, this plan is specific to the Ojai Valley Groundwater Basin, which is the blue area on your screen here. And the jurisdictional boundary of the Ojai Basin Groundwater Management Agency is the green boundary. So as I mentioned, we received 5.
We don't have that, excuse me, we don't have that
Second.
map on the.
Hang on a second. For some reason, your slides are not changing up on the monitors in the council chambers.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure what we can do. Because I am seeing it I have a computer here at my desk, and I'm seeing the changes. Oh, let's see.
That.
Oh, no, that's not changing.
No, no.
basin's not changing.
No, but.
Ah, there it goes. Okay.
Okay, are you guys seeing the comment letters received slide?
We're seeing the table of contents for the slides.
It might be a slow internet connection.
It's the one that says executive summary and then chapters 1 through 5.
Okay, that's not the slide that I have advanced. Matt, are you able to pull up the slides in the council chambers?
I've got them here, maybe I can project them. Because I already have it open. Let me see if I can project this. All right, come on. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Shit. Sorry, guys. Oh, I don't have this. I don't have the document.
I think Matt Naffley has a copy of the document.
Yeah, I've got a port.
Long-lived Zoom meetings, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, let me close, not close, but minimize.
Well, while you're loading those, I think I can just continue to kind of discuss the comment letters received. So we received 5 formal comment letters from the Casitas Municipal Water District, who provided 14 comments. The California Department of Fish and Wildlife provided 10 comments. The County of Ventura Public Works provided 29 comments. An NGO consortium, which included folks like the Nature Conservancy, provided 9 comments.
My mouse, because I only got one port.
And then getting to the comment letter that was received after the comment period, that was the Ventura River Watershed Council. And they provided 2 comment letters, one being the California Department and Fish and Wildlife letter that we had already received. And the other was a letter from NOAA, National Marine Fisheries Service, that was addressed specifically to the Upper Ventura Groundwater Sustainability Agency.
I need to save it.
Formal response to comments have been prepared for all comment letters received, except the NOAA National Marine Fisheries Service comment letter addressed to the Upper Ventura Groundwater Sustainability Agency. The National Marine Fisheries Service comment letter is considered an informational item only for the Ojai Valley Groundwater Basin. The Upper Ventura GSA has provided response to comments for this comment letter, which are available from the Upper Ventura Groundwater GSA website. Did we have any questions about that NOAA comment letter? I briefly looked at it. I mean, a lot of the comments were specific to the Ventura River and in-stream flow conditions at the diversion structure, at the Foster diversion structure. It's really informational. We were going to simply reference Upper Ventura's response to comments for that letter.
Well, this is, wasn't expecting to do this today, so. Share screen.
Are there any changes that we would be seeing on this slide that we haven't seen the last 4 meetings that we discussed this? Is there anything we wouldn't be familiar with and need to see this slide to acquaint itself with some information that it is new?
Looks like John's.
Yeah, there's a couple revisions to the GSP figures, but I could probably just talk you through it. And, you know, I don't want to waste your time. So I think I can just verbally go through the slides. So the Ojai Basin Groundwater Management Agency has reviewed all comments received during the draft GSP public comment period Detailed responses to comments have been prepared for all comments submitted and were provided as an appendix to the draft final GSP for the Ojai Valley Groundwater Basin. The draft final GSP for the Ojai Valley Groundwater Basin has been updated based on comments received. If you go down to slide 6, I'm seeing the slides now. I think you'll be caught up with me.
Yeah, I just gotta try and expand the screen.
I think if you go to slideshow,
Okay.
and if you advance to slide 6, you should be caught up. Thanks, John, for being our technical support today.
Yeah, I need to.
So I just finished this, and it's interesting it's not. So the final draft GSP for the Ojai Valley Groundwater Basin has also been updated based on the comments received. So on the next slide, we went over Casitas Municipal Water District comment letter for the most part during the last board meeting. I'm still seeing slide 6, so if you could advance to slide 7. Of the 14 comments submitted by Casitas Municipal Water District, 12 comments resulted in revisions to the draft GSP and were discussed at the last board meeting. 2 of the comments resulted in clarifications. The first being the distribution of recharge, the principal and Purged aquifers in the Ojai Valley Groundwater Basin. Again, the extent of the Purged aquifer was discussed at the last board meeting. And there was a clarification whether measurable objectives have been established for the Purged aquifer. The GSP has clearly identified interconnected surface water, groundwater interactions, and GDEs as a data gap, has provided a project and management action to further study these issues, and will develop appropriate sustainability management criteria for depletions of interconnected surface water during GSP implementation, if applicable. That really sums up the Casitas district comment letter. They had some really nice comments, mostly resulting in just kind of corrections in terms of, things like the aquifer volume or the Casitas lake volume. But overall, a nice comment letter. If you advance to the next slide, is the California Department of Fish and Wildlife comment letter. Of the 10 comments submitted by California Department of Fish and Wildlife, 3 resulted in revisions to the draft groundwater sustainability plan. Revision of the groundwater sustainability plan to distinguish between natural recharge and artificial recharge. Revision of section 2.3.2, principal aquifers and aquatards to better characterize available data. To clarify in the GSP that the half-mile radius was used to help quantify the number of wells in the vicinity of each vegetation or wetland community based on the Nature Conservancy's use of a 1 kilometer buffer to associate wells with groundwater level data with polygons in the natural communities commonly associated with groundwater data set. Essentially Fish and Wildlife thought that we were like eliminating the potential for wells to have GDE impacts if they were greater than a half-mile away, and that wasn't the case. We were using the wells, the groundwater level information from the wells to see whether or not groundwater levels were correlated with changes in vegetation health. So made that clarification in this comment letter. And then finally, most of the other California Department of Fish and Wildlife comments primarily relate to interconnected surface water groundwater interactions, groundwater dependent ecosystems, environmental uses of water, and use of best available data and science. Again, the GSP clearly indicates data gaps related to those issues, provides projects and management actions to further study them, and develop sustainability management criteria during GSP implementation, if applicable. Any questions with the Fish and Wildlife comment letter?
Yeah, yes, I have a question. Is there a way to clearly define what CDFW means by natural versus artificial recharge? How do those terms defined, especially artificial?
Yeah, they cited the USGS definition of natural and artificial recharge, and we did agree that in one section we did have things, and it just wasn't clear. We had like septic return flows in one sentence that we agreed was not obviously natural recharge. So we just distinguished between the natural and artificial recharge in that sentence. I think it was a very straightforward correction, and really don't think it's substantive.
Okay, but just to clarify in my mind, so if, for example, there are capture basins to like little mini spreading grounds that could be engineered or re-engineering of flood control channels, does that count as artificial or natural? Because you're basically going back to the natural recharge.
Right. If there was a physical structure designed to capture stormwater and infiltrate it into the ground, that would not occur under natural conditions, and that would likely be considered a form of artificial recharge to the basin.
So that would be considered artificial even though you're going back to enhancing the natural recharge before the hardscape was installed. That's just how it's defined, correct?
Right, because there's some uncertainty whether or not those flows would be captured and recharged into the basin. When you're talking about more like low impact development best management practices for infiltration basins in the city of Ojai, yeah, a lot of that water probably under an undeveloped condition would have infiltrated into the aquifer, but we're really considering any sort of infrastructure to capture stormwater as artificial recharge.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Trey, this is Bob. Would you go back over that CDE issue? I'm still very concerned that we haven't put the message out that with the purged water and the CDE and the relationship as to what they think the pumping is going to do. I thought that we were strong enough in our presentation and our language that at least Fish and Game would understand that lowering the aquifer 10 feet in August resulted in no appreciable change to the flow in the CDE that we measured. And am I making sense? It just occurs to me that for some reason the majority or a number of outside sources think that they're connected. So would you go back over that one sentence that you made on that? Sure.
Yeah, I think in terms of interconnect surface water groundwater interactions, it's the cause du jour, especially down on the Ventura River. I think a lot of the folks reviewing our plan don't quite understand the hydrostratigraphy. They don't understand that our basin's almost 900 feet deep. I have some figures that I'll show a little bit later that we upgraded on the cross sections of the basin, but the basin's 900 feet deep in Ojai versus in some sections of the Ventura River that are only 50 feet deep, and where there's a direct nexus of pumping and surface water flow. Based on the available data we have to date, and Jordan's done a really good job of collecting a lot of that information, it doesn't appear that the deeper primary production aquifers are connected with the Purged aquifer that is really discharging or daylighting as groundwater daylighting as surface water in San Antonio Creek. And it's just going to be an ongoing issue, I think. I think the more education we put forward, the better graphics we put forward to NGOs, to public agencies, the more they can understand the difference. We actually have a little presentation that I think down the road we can do that shows a cross-section of Foster Creek on the Ventura River versus a cross-section of the Ojai Basin, and really dissect the difference between the two, like compare and contrast, because honestly, I get the sense that a lot of people don't understand what's going on in the subsurface, and until we educate them more on it, we're going to continue to get these comments. Every single comment letter kind of hit on the interconnected surface water.
Yeah.
I hope that answered your question. But
Yeah,
I'm not quite sure.
it does, and I'm very eager for you to delineate that as much as you can. Again, we have people that think these little pocket catchments in the street and their rain bells are going to recharge the aquifer when nothing's going to go in that section below the Purged because of the barrier anyhow. So whatever you can do to really strengthen that, those two things are just, in my understanding, separate. Again, it seems to be that they think it's going to be, by looking at the lawsuit and some of the issues that Ventura's throwing up, they kind of have a thing where if you pump, it directly lowers the creek below where you're pumping. And so I don't think anybody, I shouldn't say that. I don't think that's correct. And anything we can do to really make that clear will help us in the future. Thank you.
Sure.
I'm sorry,
And
I don't
then-
know what's going on.
John, I'm seeing slide 10. I'm on slide 9 right
Yeah,
now.
I know. But I can't get it up on the screen in the boardroom or in the council chambers.
Okay, sorry about that. Do you want me to try to share one more time and see if that works?
Yeah, I got a message that said the internet connection was not very good, but you can try it.
Okay, well, for the slides that I have graphics for, I'll try to pull those up. But let's just go over the County of Ventura Public Works comment letter. 29 comments, 6 resulted in revisions to the draft GSP. First was we added mountain front recharge as a source of recharge to the Ojai Valley groundwater basin in the executive summary. I think it was pretty straightforward. The second one is we added a statement indicating that the number of wells monitored by the county is based on accessibility. Currently 18 wells are monitored, but they just wanted to emphasize that, access issues may limit the number of wells the county can monitor in any given year. We clarified that groundwater permits are administered by the County Public Works. We revised the cross sections figures 2-14 through 2-16 to include known screen intervals for wells and identify the numerical model layers in the basin. For the fifth one, we revised the GSP to clarify the statement regarding data gaps associated with relevant agencies, and basically said like our known data gaps are based on the comment letters we received and some outreach conducted to agencies in the Ojai area. We also revised section 4.333, develop water conservation program, to include reference to the Ojai Valley area plan. Most of the other public works comments were answered or clarified based on information available in the GSP. Simply it was just, it's a pretty long document. They had a lot of good questions, and we just presented them the sections of the GSP that answered their questions.
Oh, we got something.
Yeah, we're behind.
Which slide are you on?
Yeah, I think unfortunately appears to be 2 slides missing from your deck. I'm going to try to share a screen and see if this will work.
Let me close this.
It'll kick you out, I think. So can you guys see my screen?
I don't think so.
It should be a geologic graphic of the basin.
Yeah, I'm seeing it on, oh, there it goes. I think it's just slow.
Are you seeing, unfortunately I can't see what's on the screen.
Yeah,
on
we're
your
seeing
end.
the
Okay.
geologic.
Map with hash marks.
Right. So again, we from numerous commenters, we got this question about the extent of the Purged aquifer. So I added this red line. Hopefully you can see that to really distinguish between the areas to the west, northwest in the basin where it is believed the Purged aquifer doesn't exist, and the areas to the south, the southwest where the aquifer occurs, and the northeast where it doesn't. This is, a very important distinction that hopefully you can see. Let me see if I can get this next slide to go. Are you seeing the cross section now?
Yes.
Okay, terrific. So one thing Public Works wanted us to add was the model layers so they could better understand the numerical model and the cross section. So layers 1 through 10. The primary production aquifers are layers 4, 6, 8, and 10. The aquitars are noted by the gray coloration. As you can see, and we also added the screen interval because they had some big interest about where the wells are screened. And I think this graphic is pretty nice because it clearly shows that layers 1 and 2, and 2 being really the Purged aquifer, that none of the wells are screened in the Purged aquifer in this particular cross section. That all of the wells, for the most part, are screened, slightly in 4, but mostly in 6, 8, and 10. So these wells are all pumping from the deeper portions of the basin. And that pumping from the deeper portion of the basin based on available groundwater level data we have does not impact the groundwater levels in layer 2. So that's one way that we can better clarify to them impacts from pumping, and that currently there is not a nexus between groundwater extraction in the basin and surface water outflows from the basin. So the final comment letter was the NGO consortium comment letter. 9 comments, 2 resulted in revisions to the draft GSP. We revised the groundwater sustainability plan to state that the maximum rooting depth of Valley Oak is 80 feet. We added a complete inventory and description of threatened and endangered species in the Ojai Valley groundwater basin in Appendix E per their request. And we also revised the GSP to indicate that no managed wetlands are known to occur in the basin. Again, most of the other NGO consortium comments relate to interconnected surface water groundwater interactions, GDEs, and environmental users of groundwater. The GSP clearly indicates data gaps related to these issues, provides projects and management actions to further study them, and develop sustainability, some sustainability management criteria for depletions of interconnected surface water during GSP implementation if applicable. That summarizes all the comments. We've sent over the formal responses. There were a lot of additional questions about the in-stream flows, but I think we provided substantial information to show that additional study is really warranted to develop any sort of minimum thresholds or sustainable management criteria for interconnected surface water groundwater. With that, are there any additional questions?
Anyone have any questions?
Is Chair, is the procedure going to be that after this meeting, DUDEC will put out a new draft for us to look at? Or are we just going to approve it today? Which is fine with me, but I just wanted to know what's going to be the procedure here.
Yeah, our intent was to finalize it today so that we could submit it.
Okay. So after we hear from Jordan, we would just approve the changes that he might be suggesting if we agree with them, for example, in the final approval?
I would suggest a motion to the board being that you would approve adoption contingent upon us working with Jordan and Ojai Basin Groundwater Management Agency staff to verify the response to comments and the red lines.
Right.
We have the red lines done for the most part. They'll be available to review probably on Monday. We have all the figure corrections except I think one that Jordan's going to mention today ready to go. So, sometime next week we should have everything. Certainly we can get those documents over to GMA staff and they can approve it, or if they have any additional revisions, we can certainly
So
work
we
with
could do a
them, but-
final approval today, subject to changes from Jordan. And then
Yep.
if we had things that we want to talk about, we could go through Jordan, and basically he could be he could consider any other things that might come up in our thoughts.
Yes.
Okay.
I concur with that. Thank you.
Okay, so I make a motion that we approve the plan as presented.
On the condition that?
Yeah, subject to.
On a condition,
Condition that we might, like I have some notes here, but.
added changes
Would, communicated through Jordan,
to follow next week.
yeah. I'll second that.
You want
Tim
to call,
seems reluctant.
call the roll?
That,
Do you want discussion before the roll, or are we done?
If you have any comments or further discussion, go ahead.
No, I'm gonna I have some notes I'll share with Jordan. If we-
why don't you share them now?
Yeah, at
Before-
least we'd have some idea what they
Yeah.
are.
Okay. Well, a lot of it has to do with wording.
Okay.
To be clear that, in my mind, that we make sure that this GSP is consistent throughout.
Right.
And I see a couple places where some of the introductory comments are not consistent throughout, as an earlier draft,
Okay.
okay? And I'll give one example to give you a sense of the genre without wasting time. In the very first paragraph on page ES2, under summary of basin setting and conditions, after a discussion of natural recharge to the OVGMA occurs through, et cetera, the next sentence says, local surface water from stream, creeks, and river courses in the Ventura River watershed have been supplied to users in the Ojai Valley ground basin since 49 are an important component of OVGB supply. Well, that's really not accurate. We don't supply water, number one. And we don't want to have any, this is not really consistent with the implication that all the river courses do not contribute to OVGB resources. So I'm just going to suggest that that kind of language is cleaned up to Jordan. That's the kind of thing that I think that sentence ought to be deleted.
Right.
Well, it's an important fact, though, that Ventura River water from the Upper Ventura River watershed is imported over the basin and has been since 1949.
Yes,
It's part of our supply.
for the overall watershed.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. But this is a GSP just for the OVGB.
But a critical element of that supply is that we have backup sources.
No, and that's, later on, they talked about conjunctive use. There's discussion of conjunctive use later on.
Well, I understand that,
But-
but with or without conjunctive use, historically, water has been imported over the basin since 1949.
I understand that, but that's an important component of supply to ratepayer, to users in the Ojai Valley Ground Basin. But the Ojai Valley Ground Basin supply itself doesn't contribute to OVGB itself supply.
Well, it does. I mean, there is return water, and prior to Casitas being built, they actually used it as a recharge.
It used to.
Yeah, but there is return
Right.
water from the water that's applied.
What I'm trying to say is I think we need to be, I consider that potentially internally inconsistent for someone who isn't intimately aware of the basin reading that in the very first paragraph.
Well, I guess the big thing is to make clear is the basin is not independent.
Independent of,
independent of outside sources. And that outside source is the Ventura River.
Is Casitas.
Yeah.
That's
Is the
Casitas.
Ventura River it's Casitas
It's via Casitas.
via Casitas.
And there's discussion later on about conjunctive use. But that's not the same as OVGB supply itself. In terms of what OVGB manages, in terms of extractions.
Yeah, what I think I hear you saying is, you're saying that the Ventura River itself, there's no direct connection to the basin. It's all via other vehicles
Right.
such as Casitas recharge, septic
Right.
tanks, whatever.
And I wouldn't want someone starting to read this up in Sacramento getting an implication that that's not really accurate there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well,
these are the kind.
Could we leave that in and clarify it that it is via
Yeah,
Casitas?
that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is that it's, I think
Sure.
at this point in time, when we're about to submit this thing, it's gonna have to be, we're gonna have to be very, very sensitive to accuracy.
Well, I don't disagree.
And via retail water sales within the basin, I
Yeah.
think is a good way to characterize it.
So that's just an example. I have a few comments like that. I'm not, obviously, if Jordan doesn't feel they have validity or sits and talks with John or whatever, I mean, I'm not asking for approval of my comments, but I'll submit them to Jordan for consideration along those lines.
Well, as long as, I mean, if it's inconsistent with the rest of the document, we ought to make it consistent. But my point simply is that it is a major part of the supply to the Ojai Basin.
Right.
And has been historically. How it got here and what terms we use to describe it, should be consistent throughout the document.
Right. That's all I'm saying. And another example, and I'll drop it, is on the second paragraph in the same page. They talk about the water going into Lake Casitas. And let's see, it's filled up here, where it says, local Ventura River watershed surface flows are sourced from Ventura River tributaries and from the Ventura River itself through a diversion canal and stored in Lake Casitas. I think that sentence should be very clear and include the qualifier that is all outside the boundaries of the Ojai Valley groundwater basin. That's not stipulated in that sentence. I just think it's important to be very accurate.
Sure.
So those are the genre of my comments.
Okay. Yeah, just go ahead and submit them, and he can make sure that it's consistent throughout the document.
And then just two other little technical things. They still have Mayor Johnston as the mayor of the city of Monroe in table 1.7. And under table 2.2, they talk about ownership of land, and they don't include the county, which owns Sewell Park, which is inside the city limits. So just little things like that.
Okay. Any others? I had one comment I received just a little bit before a meeting today from Russ Baggerly, and he attended some procedure with this lawsuit that's going on between Ventura regards to the bifurcation. And there was a comment made at this by City of Ventura's attorney that our sustainability plan stated that there's an interconnection between groundwater in the Ojai Basin and the groundwaters in the upper Ventura River. So I went through I could never recall that. In fact, that was an issue from the very beginning. And I went through the document, and I found in paragraph 1.1, it makes a statement that basically that the interconnectivity of groundwater basins as described and considered in the GSP is for defining criteria under which the OBGMA would continue to be managed sustainably. So it's not making any conclusions one way or the other about the interconnectivity. And then if you go to the body of the document, paragraph 2.444, it describes the results of the groundwater modeling that was done, and it was determined that there may be as much as 90 acre-feet per year of subsurface outflows from the basin to bedrock and to neighboring groundwater basins. That's about 7 gallons a minute. So that's the only thing that I found in the document that implies that there's any interconnectivity. So if Jordan, if you know of any others, or we can clarify that any more than it's already been clarified, it would be helpful.
Yeah, I think if I could speak to that a little bit, the key is that those are model-based numbers, and I think they're sort of catch-alls of a number of items, namely subsurface flow within the known and defined channel of San Antonio Creek. It's already exited the basin. It's already exfiltrated from the Purged Aquifer system largely, and it's sort of it is that catch-all number. Those details Trey and I talked about quite a bit today already, just how we and how DUDEC has addressed many of that in text of the document. We just probably need to make sure that it's clarified in the tables, because as you know, folks will look at documents like this, they'll thumb through it or scroll through it or search for a certain term in a PDF, come across a graphic, and think that's the whole story. We just need to make sure that where those graphics are, that the story is more complete and of course consistent, as you've eloquently described here this afternoon. And my job here is to help review that for that consistency internally, as well with what we know scientifically about the systems.
Okay. Any further discussion? The only thing I would like to say is if Jordan or Trey, if you come up with some substantial change to this document, that you should let John know, and if we have to have another meeting,
Right.
we'll do that.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, as long as the comments and what's incorporated into the document, the changes are non-substantive and editorial in nature, I think no problem. If there's a substantive change that, changes something fundamental about the way that something's approached in the document, then I think that would need to come back to the board for approval.
Well, if there's no further comment, you can call the roll.
Director Daddy,
Aye.
Director Finch,
Yes.
Director Wyrick,
Yes.
Director Thielke,
Yes.
and Chair Hages.
Yes.
Unanimous, thank you.
Well, congratulations, everyone. That was a real marathon.
Now we wait for the review.
Well, yeah. Yeah, the review, the reviews.
Congratulations, Chair.
Yeah, we're ahead of the game.
We're not the stumbling block.
No.
Stumbling blocks in Sacramento.
Well, the thing seems to be fairly well done, so we may get something that we have to redo, but hopefully it isn't significant. Okay, the next item, Peter, you want to handle this, item 5?
Yeah, I don't have a copy of the agenda in front of me, but the board is agendized to retire to closed session to discuss the potential possibility of intervening in the Upper Ventura River Comprehensive Groundwater Adjudication. Actually, it's not the Upper Ventura River, it's the Ventura River Comprehensive Groundwater Adjudication, Santa Barbara Channel Keeper versus State Water Resource Control Board, case number 19STCP01176. And with that, I think that we could retire and go talk about that.
Yep.
Right.
And,
Back in the boardroom, back to your bell.
I guess so.
Okay, that's the only.
yeah, we need to close out in Zoom.